I have a situation where I feel like an orphan because even though my parents are alive, I don't feel seen. And a lot of the wounds from childhood are repeating, even in adulthood. And now that I'm a mother, I'm really trying to not repeat that trauma.
There's this human hierarchy that we exude around, but you're my mother, you're supposed to know more than I do. And there's a process in that as we become older and we're the adult, there's a shifting that needs to take place where you reconfigure those positions and where you see your parent in an entirely new way, more almost on the same level. And then there's this expectation that you take from them and put back into yourself. And then you can kind of see the two of you as soul family, but one is not above the other and one is no longer guiding. So there's this like a reorg or a passing of the baton or something that shifts inside of you, like constellation work essentially, where you reposition who the characters are, and then what you ask of them and what you require of them changes. And then perhaps you see them more as someone that you can guide or that you can help, or someone that there's no exchange at all of guiding, following, because perhaps when you were younger, you actually were the one that was guiding your parent. That often is the case that
Yes,
I see clients who say, I feel like I was the one doing the parenting from very early on. And so in this process of doing this work with what's called the mother wound, there's a way in which you go back in years and back in time to the point where you were small and you're able to see who they were and see what their struggles were and understand from a completely different perspective, almost from a third person above, looking down on the situation of who were they taking care of you as an infant. So you're no longer the infant in the story, and you're not the parent either. You're just looking at it from above down, and from that place you get a lot more clarity of who they were and what they needed at the time and how they saw themselves. And that can breathe new life for clients into the situation. It can put some room in there where there's more compassion for both parties involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a wounded child walking around in my adult body a lot of the time. And I also feel like in dating, I've dated a lot of men. Like people talk about wounded masculine. Is there also wounded feminine?
So yeah, there are definitely these roles that we play out. The wounded masculine, the way that I've seen that show up is the masculine who is deeply disappointed in the way that their mothers showed up for them. And they then go out into the world and they almost hand this entire basket, empty basket, to their potential partners. And they're looking for at that point, they're looking for any divine feminine to fill in the gaps where their mother fell short or chose not to fill in or wasn't able to fill in or filled in a way that they found to be less than substantial or not enough or lacking. And so that creates this wounded masculine who's already coming to their partner with a narrative of the divine feminine not showing up for them in the past, or leaving them, or being distracted, or judging them harshly, or being too critical, or boundaries that are too merged. So then they feel like the divine feminine has sort of swallowed them whole in a way, and or been just wildly unfair to them, scapegoated them in some way for what their fathers had not, how their fathers had not shown up for the mothers. And so that's the way that I've seen that show up in wounded masculine. And this process, this reintegration, and this what almost is a rebirthing of sorts, goes back to the beginning of when we were born and the exchange that's supposed to take place with mother and child, and sort of alchemizes and fills in with what was not done the first time around.